937-2644. Last week I was out of town, so we ended up replaying the episode of the show with Lita Sellers. That was a great show, and I thoroughly enjoyed talking with Lita. Lita is a very strong woman and has a backbone. She can take a hit, isn't afraid to voice her views, and is willing to back them up. At one point in time in the show, she actually told me to blow it out my nose. I thought that was total comedy. Lita's agreed to be back on the show, and I can't wait. She's an absolute pleasure to be on the show. Now, folks, I had a full outline of things that I was going to start out the show with, an opening segment that I normally do for other shows, but after about 10 minutes of talking with the guest here, I decided to change things a little bit. I'm going to throw that out the window, and we're going to go straight to the guest. So the guest that I have today is a gentleman by the name of Ken Brown. He's a pastor here in the Eugene-Springfield area. The name of his church is Hope Chapel. If you have any questions for myself or Ken during the show, please give us a call at 541-284-7953. Once again, that number is 541-284-7953. Give us a call and let us know what you think. Ken Brown, how are you?
Good. How are you today, Jacob?
Not too bad, buddy. So I have, I've known you for, I would say probably, 5, 6, 7 years?
Something like that, yeah.
It's been a while. I'm a pastor's kid. I mean, you know that. And so I have met, talked with, and beat up many a pastor over my years. But I found you somewhat unique, simply because of your approach, how you address things, your outlook on things, that type of thing. And so I think I've developed somewhat of a friendship with you, and I've grown to respect you. And so there's a lot of things I like about you, but there's also the baggage that I bring along with me, being a pastor's kid, of what you do and the church and things like that. And I think I have said in the past, police officers have the worst job on the planet. And I honestly believe that police officers have the worst job on the planet. Second to them, I think, would be being a pastor. I think your job would suck at the highest level it could possibly suck. And the reason for that is,
well, thanks for having me, by the way.
is people kind of suck. And so I'm just curious. I mean, I know that you've been a Christian for how many years?
Long time.
Yeah.
Young child.
Yeah. So you've been a Christian believer for long amount of time. Somehow, some way, you decided you wanted to become a pastor, and you probably didn't understand or comprehend the ramifications of what that meant. But I think at the time. But I think that now you probably have a really clear understanding of that. And I think that people's perspectives on how they view pastors and how they treat pastors is kind of screwed. What do you think?
Probably true. I probably had a little different perspective in the sense that I was a pastor's kid as well. So I grew up seeing the good and the bad, as it were.
So you're familiar with the crap that I'm talking about?
Yeah, sure. And I think there's even a point where at one point I remember saying the words, boy, the one thing I'll never do, when I grow up is to take this on and to be a pastor.
Yeah. Because I said the same thing.
And I think
and I'm a man of my word, and you aren't.
That's right. I lied.
You lied.
and you held with it.
That's right.
Now, I think I think there's a point where you just, whether it's a revelation from God, you can say it's part of your gifting that you just begin to walk out, where you have a love for people, or you desire to make a difference or things better in people's lives, whatever it may be. I just knew there was a point where the things I was pursuing, as far as occupation or what I believed I wanted to do, either just didn't work out, or I do, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. I really do, even with all the things that we'll probably talk about, I really do find fulfillment in being a pastor. I think that there is, you and I've talked at great length about the things that come up in a pastor's life and their kids. I've got a family, and
well, and that's the thing. I mean, what you do affects your kids too, and people take it to that other. And obviously, like I said, I've known you for a while. I know you have a pastor's heart. You do have a sincere love for people. It's something that is totally foreign to me. I mean, I want to make a change too, but I don't have that I don't know what you call it, the God love or whatever that you actually love and care for. I mean, there's a level that I have for people where it's like, you know what, you can go jump in the lake, and that's saying it nicely only because I'm on the radio. I have other words I'd use. But I mean, the bottom line is people typically, they tend to put you up on a pedestal, and approach you or think of you as, you're the person who's supposed to tell them, teach them about, instruct them about life and about God and what's right to do and what's wrong to do. And they are constantly watching you to make a mistake. They constantly are doing everything they can to find out if Ken did this or Ken did that, and boy, if he didn't, I didn't really like how he did that church service, or I don't like how he handled that situation or something. They're always going to be throwing jabs at you. They're always going to be trying to figure out a way to bring you down, and they'll do it with their kids. I mean, if your kid acts out in church, if your kid does poorly in school, if your kid ends up dating somebody or changes his hair like that, that's all a reflection on you, and they're gonna look at you and say there's something wrong with you because of that. And frankly, I think that's crap. I think that's crap because you're human, right? I mean, you're human. You're just Ken Brown. You're delivering a message, but yet somehow, some way, all of a sudden, you're representative of who Christ is supposed to be. And I don't understand the thought process or mentality there. And frankly, as a prior pastor kid, it pisses me off.
Yeah. Wow.
I said a lot.
You did.
And I got a little worked up, and I apologize.
Let me go back to say, I think that, I've lived as the pastor's kid, lived through those things on both sides of that. And so I'm careful to maybe have my children play a little different role than I did, maybe as a pastor's son. But I think even as a young child or teenager, I loved doing things in the church. I mean, I just loved it. I loved to get up and sing. I loved to be up in front. I loved to, go to camp. I loved to kind of lead things. I just loved doing that. And I think at that point there's a naivety that even when people say things about you, you just think, that's what I love doing, so, whatever. Now, I don't put pastors and athletes or anybody that's in the public in the same vein, but let's face it, if you don't like a certain star or your favorite player drops the ball or throws 4 interceptions or whatever, we have that same right, and we do the same thing to them, and we criticize and whatever.
Okay, and I get you, but hold on a minute here. I mean, let's back up a minute here. And I understand. You're right. I mean, if you've got a baseball player, an actor, something like that, you're going to go and they fall down or something, you're going to say, hey, you know what, that's crap, whatever. But we're talking about people of the church. Okay, we're talking about people of the church. These are believers, supposedly in Christ. These are ones that, supposedly are going to carry his word, and they behave and they act and they talk no different than the rest of the world. And the moment that somebody falls, they do their best to gossip about it, talk about it, and judge on it. And see, when it talks about in the Bible, in Ruth chapter 16, verse 28, when it talks about not judging thy neighbor, I think that's the very thing they're talking about, or not being of the world or speaking words. Most people say, you don't be of the world, you don't speak, like the world. They refer that to cuss words and stuff like that. But I think it's not. I think it's referring to that type of attitude, mentality, behavior that they're taking towards people, especially people like you that are in your type of role, and that's the attitude. If Ken goes to a bar just to pick somebody up, rumor's going to go around town that Ken's been drinking, and that's what people are going to jump on, and that's what we're going to like to say. Yeah. So what do you think about that? Because that's my point. I think that they take it to that level.
No, I get that, and I grew up in that sort of legalism type thing. You didn't go to movies, you didn't go to dances, and the reason
rated R movies were bad.
Well, man, I couldn't even go to a bowling alley because at the time people did, they smoked in a bowling alley, and you can't go there. So it was pretty legalist thing. But I didn't take it as, oh man, I'm lower class citizen, I can't do this, or boy, look at all these my friends make fun of me, and because I can't go to dances or whatever. I really just thought, well, that's the way it is, and someday it'll change, and I don't put those same standards on my kids because I don't think.
But you're an adult now, and you have the same type of thing that you encounter. I mean, you are Ken Brown, and you are human, and you read the Bible and you talk about the Bible, but people are seriously watching you, waiting for you to make that mistake, to do that thing, to cause that issue, and then they're going to gossip about it, and they're going to talk about it, and it's going to be people from your own church that are out to stab you in the back. That's what they're looking for. That's what these type of dirtbags are, and they go to your church. These pricks.
And I would back off a little bit on that, in the sense that I don't think. I mean, are there people that do that? You bet. But the majority of people, I feel, at least I'll say, and I know lots of pastors who would tell you,
I hate them and I want to cut their heads off.
We're pretty supported. But if you know this, and you've sat there and listened to me share on a Sunday, I'm the first one to admit I am Ken Brown and I'm a human. I mean, I
agree.
My best examples are about me, and how I, yelled at the referee at my son's game, or got mad, or whatever, when I had to sit and wait in line at the drive-up window at Sonic. I go, whatever.
But do you feel you have to walk a line for people, for sake of people? Do you feel you got to walk a line for sake of people?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's things. I would be honest enough that we have a discussion at my house on a regular basis. There are things that we don't do. I don't do as a person. I ask my kids not to do. But I don't want it to be, here's a list of do's and don'ts. Here's a list of what I feel in my heart I should not do. Here's a list of things that, doing this thing, is it more important than maybe causing somebody over here to struggle? So we don't do some things. But I don't want my kids to do it out of, here's 16 things that we can't do because you're a pastor's kid. Here's a list of things that I want you to think about, maybe pray about. Maybe you have your own feeling and discussion with yourself, and maybe with God, not maybe, but with him, and say, you know what, doing that is not so important to me as what it would cause somebody else to think or do. Does that mean I don't do things that I might want to do? Does that mean I've put off things that I may want to try? You bet. But I'll tell you what, those things have never become so obsessive with me that I get bitter and think I'm not doing this because I'm trying to be somebody that I'm not to somebody else. I really
I don't think you're that type of person either. I mean, the truth of the matter is, if I thought in any way, shape, or form that Ken Brown to me wasn't the actual Ken Brown at home, if I thought you were playing me, number one, I probably would have guessed it and picked up on it a long time ago. And number two, I would be talking totally different right now. In that regard. I mean, I know you're genuine. I know you are you, and that's what I like about you. The thing that I guess frustrates me is the fact that you do have these people that will go to your church. They'll sit in your pew. They'll sit there and they'll listen to you. They'll take instruction from you, and they'll look up different verses, which, by the way, I did quote chapter and verse. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I noticed that.
That was pretty good, huh?
Yeah, you got one of them down anyway.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Okay.
Was it accurate?
Sure.
Yeah, because I pulled it right out of my backside, and so I'm hoping that you thumb through your Bible so you can find it. But the bottom line is they're going to sit there in your pew, and they're going to sit there and they're going to take on this attitude of being righteous or whatever it is, and they're going to look for you to make a mistake. And I think that I think that's just a crappy thought process and mentality that type of individual has. And I think that their approach, when they would approach you on it, or because 9 times out of 10 they won't, they're just going to talk about your back or talk behind your back, Ken.
Yeah,
that's what they're going to do. They're going to talk behind your back, and they're going to spread rumors about you, gossip about you. And if there's ever going to be a place for that, it's going to be in the church. That's what they do. They're a bunch of snakes. They're slimy, dirtbag snakes, and they all deserve their heads cut off.
And again, I don't doubt that there's one or some of those out there, and I think what happens is we focus on them because, again, as a pastor's son, you and I both, we probably heard that a lot more. The first job I went to at a church, the pastor said, hey, for every person that pats you on the back, there's 10 of them that stab you in the back. Because we hear that, and we don't always hear, hey, way to go. Hey, we don't always get encouraged. I think this, I can let those things or those kind of people stymie what I'm going to do and stymie the work that I think I'm supposed to do and go home and be discouraged. And I'll be honest enough to tell you there's been nights that I've gone home and been discouraged about somebody that said something, or that left the church, or that told me about my kids. Can
I have their name and number so I can go cut their head off? Because I would love to do it. I mean, stuff like that pisses me off.
Hang on. But I could come to a complete stop in what I believe me as a pastor, Hope Chapel as a church is supposed to be doing. Or I can say, there is going to be these kind of people all along the way. There are going to be people even on Sundays that don't agree with everything I say or do. Okay, I can't let that stop me from doing what I believe I'm supposed to be doing, or us as a church are supposed to be doing, and all the good, whether I hear about it or not, whether I get people to call me and say that was the greatest teaching you ever did every week. I got to have enough confidence to know that, and again, we're going to get spiritual here a little bit, but I have to have enough confidence to know that I'm doing what I believe God has asked me to do. And that, to me, that's the biggest pat on the back I could get. And whether, even in this case, whether you agree with what I said on Sunday, or whether you agree with what we do as a church to go feed the homeless, or do something in a certain way that we do it, whether you agree with that or not, I could let that put a stop to our process of going forward.
So you're going to do what you're going to do based on what you know and believe in your heart to do, and you're not going to apologize for it, basically.
I don't think I need to apologize to it, because if I'm in fact doing what I believe, again, my relationship with God has called me to do, and on a daily basis, His Word or what He speaks to me and says, Ken, here's what I need you to do. I'm answering Him.
You realize that there are people out there, and you read the headlines all the time of different pastors that Jimmy Swaggart. I remember as a kid, I remember hearing about Jimmy Swaggart. He was with a prostitute. Next thing you know, it's all over all sorts of headlines. The world likes to really blow that up. They really like to, say, oh, see, he's a hypocrite, point fingers, that type of thing. There are people in your own church gunning for you in that way. They're looking for you in that way. Somebody out there is looking to find a dirt on Ken, and they want to, they want to show the rest of the world, Ken ain't all he's cracked up to be. That's the type of mentality these are.
And here's my comment on that. Then my suggestion would be, if you want to make it happen quicker, follow me around for a day, because during that day, you're going to see something that you probably don't like that Ken does. I am in no way either every Sunday in front of my church or behind this microphone saying, man, you'll never see anything with me that promotes me above anybody else.
You're just going to take it. You're just going to sit there and take it. That's what you're telling me. You're going to let these boneheads. You're not even going to call them out in your church and say, you know what, you're a dirtbag, because they need to be told they're dirtbags. I think that they should be told they're dirtbags and their heads should be cut off. Theron, do you agree?
No, not exactly.
No, somebody's got to agree with me, because I think they're dirtbags and they need their heads cut off.
And and I'm not going to go analyze the thing of obviously something happened when you were a pastor's kid.
I'm pissed.
Just kidding. Here's my deal. I'm not disagreeing with the fact that even I don't like that takes place. I've seen really good buddies and really good friends in the ministry. Either something takes place, or in worst cases, nothing took place, and yet they paid the price.
Exactly,
for that.
Nothing takes place. They pay the price.
And I don't like that. Trust me. And I know good guys that are sitting that should be up in front of churches today that really are injured, and
That's
they're not doing
gossiping slime.
Again, not disagreeing. What I am saying is, I have the choice every day to say, is this comment made by this person bigger than what I'm called to do? Simple as that. And there are days when I want to say, yes, so let's fight that battle. That battle's not worth fighting. To me, what battle is worth fighting is, what am I called to do, and this little bump in the road by this person, or even somebody leaving my church, because every pastor would tell you, good or bad people, it's tough to see somebody go somewhere else, especially when they've made
unless
comments,
they're dirtbags
or not happy.
And then you want the dirtbags to go to other churches.
Bottom line is this: I'm going to keep going forward, and there are going to be people all along the way until the day I step down that don't like everything, and that think I should do something different, or that don't even like what I wore, what I drive, how much money you make, all those things that pastors face that we just do. My point is, okay, I'm resigned to the fact that they're going to say that. I still have a task to do.
This is the bottom line. You know, I like going to church. I do. I mean, like I said, even as a kid, I enjoyed going to church. I enjoyed listening to the song service. I even got into the message. I even like the message part because I can to analyze it, study it, figure it out. But I hate the people. And I mean, I made no bones about it. I don't like those people. Those people are so off, it's not even funny. They're freaks. They're absolute freaks because they not only, I mean, they'll do that to you. They'll sit, they'll judge you. They'll gossip about you. You being the pastor, the one that they go see. They'll look for dirt on you. And they do that to each other. They walk in the door and they do the same thing to each other, back and forth. It's the most disgraceful thing on the planet. You want to be accepted, you got to go to a secular event. You go to a church, you'll be torn apart.
And don't you think a little bit of that's human nature, though? Don't you think that in the office place or the workplace that there are people that gossip about the boss or tear the boss down? And I'm not I'm not making excuses for these people.
But we're not supposed to be of the world.
I get it. I mean, I get what you're saying.
We're not supposed to be the same.
What I'm saying is, though, I would rather. Here's my deal. I would rather those people come into my church and get a chance to hear the message that I'm speaking. As bad as their life is or whatever, you know.
They're so focused on the person sitting next to them that they don't even hear the message. They totally miss it. They can't wait to catch them before they run out the door so they can preach to them.
Could be, but I believe this. Still, it's a better place for them to come and hear. If there's one thing, if there's one song, if there's one line from a song, if when shaking hands during a greeting time, something in them says, I really am a bitter person and I need to change, I'm going to listen today, or I'm going to come back the next week, or maybe I'm never going to come back to this place, but I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm okay with that.
Folks, if you want love and acceptance, go to a Bob Marley concert because you're not going to find it at church. That's the bottom line. That's my perspective.
Okay, I'm not going to argue that with you. I'm going to say there are probably a small percentage of the people that do that. I happen to be in a place where I believe we got a great group of people, and many churches, most churches, I would say, do. Now, I can't tell you those people aren't in there because they are. But here's my thing, man. The church shouldn't be, this place for everybody that's perfect. In fact, I would hope that the people that have those issues are the people who come in because something is tweaked in them, whether it's bitterness, whether it's something that happened at another church they were at, whether they just watch TV and they get a distorted picture of Christianity or the church. I'm okay with all that. Whether they sit back and go, well, Jimmy Swaggart did this. Okay, then.
So I don't have to wear a suit to come to church?
You've never worn a suit since you've stepped in the door yet, so I don't think you do, no.
No, I wouldn't do that. But I mean, and I think that's great, and because I would agree. I think the people that need to be in church are the ones that have the problems, that have the issues.
That would be everyone. Go ahead, though.
Okay, so yeah, everybody. But like I said, I think that because of the mentality, the thought process I'm describing, people that really are sincerely in need of help, they grace the door, bro. And the people in your church
which leads me to a very good point, because it's not stepping in that building or those doors that are going to change our community or our world. Now, I think again, there's nothing special. You can walk in we work out of a funeral home, as you know, so there's nothing special building. You can't say, man, let's go to Hope today because the ambiance is just great. We've got 60 lamps that look like a funeral home hanging from the ceiling. The issue to me is this, is that if we came in and
preaching the word of life in a funeral home, that's awesome.
That's right. Bringing life where there was death. We come in there, we hopefully get our life, and we hear, because here's the deal. It's not about what I say or the player. It truly is, and again, here we go on my little thing. It's about your relationship with God. If
out of the box, man.
Whatever. You come in there, you get touched and believe God speaks to you. Then our task is not to come in and just come in church and have a country club. Hopefully our job is come in there, transform your life so you'll go out and share that same message. I mean, we think everything has to happen in the church.
But nobody does that, Ken. I mean, there's a handful of people that do that. And see, that's my frustration. It's like, you've got to find it somewhat frustrating, a person in your role, your position, to know these things, talk about these things, and the people sitting in your church on your pews, which I don't even know if you have pews,
chairs,
whatever. Okay, they're sitting there, And they totally miss the point. They deserve to get their heads cut off. Cut off.
Wow.
They should be hit right square between the eyes, because it's the only way. There are people that are listening to this show right now, and they're going, "That's not me. I'm not the one." And it's them. They're the ones. They're the ones that you sit there and you tell, listen, you're here to learn something, grow from it, and then in kind, take that message to the street.
True. Amen. I mean,
and they don't. Surely that's frustrating.
Very, very. I think we would see a different city. We would see a different nation. We would see a lot of things different in our country, in how the government runs, and what we expect of the church and of the government to provide, because we would be out there as a church, not Hope Chapel, but the church.
So church has done that in the past. Or you say it's done that in the past. Is it not doing it now?
I think we fall short of that, and I think that's based on the fact that our priorities as a church have been tweaked a little bit, have changed.
How so?
Well, you take the 1930s, the Great Depression. You look at the history of that. The church was on the forefront of serving, the soup lines and providing for that. There was no welfare. There was no if the church didn't do it, it was not going to be done. It wasn't until we had some changes in the government says we should start providing these things. And I'm not against the government programs. I'm saying that the church still, I believe, has a response just for orphans and widows and the homeless and all the things that Jesus tells us the people to go take care of, that maybe we're not doing the best that we can to do, because we focused on maybe our resources have to go in other places, whether it be, I don't know, buildings or programs or whatever that we've decided.
Say you've got mega church now. I mean, these things are massive. They bring in hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars a year. That they supposedly, donate and give to other people, but 9 times out of 10, I mean, it's people in Zimbabwe or Uganda or something. I mean, I don't know. I mean, where is the community outreach in the local areas of the churches? I mean, you look at some of these cities, and you've got 4, 5, 6 churches there. You would think that community would be doing really incredibly well if the churches in that community were doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Well, agreed, and I think that takes. I think some places went very, very well. I think locally there's a large group of churches that I meet with once a month, and the church as a whole does a good job of trying to do outreach. Trying to meet the needs, trying to meet physical needs, trying to meet spiritual and emotional needs for the people of Eugene, Springfield, Lane, Lynn, Benton County, and we work hard at it. We try to think what's the best use, being best stewards of the money that God has given each one of our churches locally. How can we come together and show Jesus' love to this community?
But does it? I mean, okay. So donations, people donate, tithe, whatever you want to call it. They comes into the church. Do you think it's entirely? I mean, when you say the church, it's not the building. It's not just you as an individual, as a pastor, or a group of people that go to the church to figure out a way. I mean, shouldn't the people that are given the donations in kind also try to do the same thing? Shouldn't they be looking at the circumstances, people in their lives that need help and helping them out that way too?
100%. I mean, I think the easiest thing to do between you and me is to drop a check in the offering, because then it kind of eases my conscience, awesome. Saying, "Whew,
I did my tithe.
I've done something." I would hope that people not only support their local church and biblically present their tithe, their offerings to the church, but I also hope they, as they're getting back in their car, they look down the street and say, "What am I called to do to the man on the street? There's a man in a tent down there. What am I called to do?" Okay,
I don't want to cut you off here. We're going to have a 2-minute break here, folks, and we will be right back with Ken Brown from Hope Chapel.
Hometown Buffet? Turn Thursday night into an awesome family night. Every Thursday from 5 to 8 p.m., kids eat for just 99 cents with the purchase of an adult meal. Enjoy fun activities and all-you-can-eat dessert at family night. Only at Hometown Buffet.
More than 130 centers in airports and other locations around the world. We have regularly scheduled deployments that come through, but things rarely run on schedule, so we have a lot of surprises. We have birthdays, we have family reunions, we even had a wedding here once. But whatever comes up, travel arrangements, emails back home, or just a place to relax for a while, we'll do our very best to see they get what they need. It's the least we can do, considering what they do for us. If you want to make a difference in the life of someone serving our country, if you really want to make a difference, the USO is how it's done. Help us help them. The USO depends on the generosity of the American people, people just like you. To find out how you help, visit us at USO.org. The USO, until everyone comes home.
Some teens have trouble just making it to graduation.
Like, my brother, I was raising him. I was taking care of him when I was 3, 4 years old. There was no possible way for me to come home, watch the kids, give them a bath, then cook dinner for everybody and clean and still get my homework done. So I'd probably stay with you because there's so many kids that you have to grow up real fast.
Young age.
Real fast. Because, I mean, if there's nobody there to do it, you got to do it.
Like she said, you can walk down the hallway and see me. I just have a smile on my face. On the inside, I'm like really, really crying. I'm hurting because like, what? How can I manage to do all this at such a young age? So it's a mind thing. You have to have your mindset that, hey, if this is what you want to do, go for it. Find you some more support and do what you have to do.
Hopefully, I'll be able to study and be able to get my stuff done, but just not knowing what's going to happen in the future, that's what scares me. That I'm hoping that I'll be able to maintain my grades and stay in school.
Give your friends the boost they need to graduate. Go to boostup.org and send a message in your own words. Brought to you by the U.S. Army and the Ad Council.
We are 1320 AM Info Radio.
Right now at Hometown Buffet, turn...
Folks, this is Jacob Larson, and you're listening to The Common Sense Show. We're here on the second half of the show with Ken Brown. He's a pastor at Hope Chapel, and we're talking about how much people that church members suck, and they deserve to have their heads cut off. And that's my opinion, not Ken's, by the way. And donations. Ken, churches get hundreds of billions of dollars of donations, and they use it to build big, mega churches.
Yeah, I mean, that's the priority of that local church, and I'm not here to ever judge what somebody does with their money. I think the pastor and the local, whatever their governing board is, has to be a good steward of what they've been given, and from place to place. There's churches that are successful in a rented building that they go to, once a week, to ones that have amazing facilities. That, boy, you could do anything there. Because of how the technology and everything that's there. Now, all I'm saying is each individual pastor and leader has to, gauge what they've called to do, what they're called to do. Again, we meet in a funeral home. It's a funeral home. I mean, that's the bottom line. And that Chapel of Memories, it was used for that for many years. We graciously have been able to use it now, and it's been great. It's allowed our church to grow, and we do a lot of ministry, and we can do a lot of outreach there.
But you are planning on building a different church, right?
We'd love to move to another church to facilitate the growth that we're having, you bet. So us as Hope Chapel, as a local church, has to decide what is that going to look like for us.
Well, I was going to say, how's that any different than some of these other boneheads who take the money and they turn it into mega churches?
Well, I'd hope that again, first of all, let's go back and say there's nothing wrong with mega churches if that's what God's called them to do, and they're doing, and
oh,
they're doing the right thing. I'm telling you, you've asked for my opinion in our sense, and we have to be a good steward of it. We probably will have a warehouse type building that is available to do many different things and continue the outreach that we desire to do. One of the things that and you know this well, but I think that I want to make sure everybody hears is the stories of people who go against a pastor, and the things you're talking about are many. Don't get me wrong, and I've been on both sides of it. But
they're just
I also
atrocious.
You know this too. I've also sat with you and told you story after story after story after story that people have been blessed by the things that are done locally, especially through the things that we've done. And I'm not putting
okay.
I'm saying that
but
we've.
That's how you different. Your church is different. It's something unique. I mean, I wrote a blog, probably a couple years back called January, and I'm not sure if you remember it or not, but it basically talked about, this is Thanksgiving, December, Christmas time. It's a holiday season, and people are all about giving and being warm and fuzzy right now. I mean, they think it's great, and I'll probably end up doing another blog or something similar to it, because I'm going to talk more about that subject as the days go closer to Christmas. But the bottom line is, as well as I do, that people are all warm and fuzzy during the holidays, and they're all about being their better man and being thankful and blah, blah, blah. But then when it comes to January, everybody goes back to business as usual, and they don't think about each other. They don't help about the guy across the street. I mean, it goes right back to the same old crap.
Yeah, and I think that's a problem in the church and social agencies and everything. And before, I'm going to be a little bit careful, because your comment was everyone goes back. I'm going to say,
I'm generalizing.
Yeah, you are.
Because they all deserve to get their heads cut off.
Of course they do. We do need to be better, and I'm speaking of the church, at not being Santa, or the great pumpkin or whatever, and coming along during the holidays and saying, man, didn't we do good? We gave everybody a Thanksgiving box. Didn't we do good? We give these people some extra food or new coats at Christmas.
I'm guilty of it too. I'm guilty of it too. I think that I try to be mindful throughout there, but the bottom line is I spring into action. I put on my Superman cape during Christmas. Sure. I mean, I admit it.
But let's go back to what we talked about originally. Our task really is this: to raise up people in the church and out of the church who understand every day my task is to look and meet the needs of people, not Christmas or Thanksgiving or the holiday season, but in January, February, to walk down the street and go, looks like they're hurting, or to know my neighbors well enough to know, man, I want to go visit them at the hospital. Their daughter's in the hospital. There was a tragic accident. I want to go see.
They use it as a status thing. People don't do that. They use it as a status thing. If they see their neighbor struggling or something like that, well, then they go, hey, I'm doing better because I got a better job and I make more money, and that people pat each other on the back for those things.
Could be.
11 months out of the year, that's what we're doing, Ken. We're patting each other on the back of the better job we have and the more money we make, and then that 1 month we actually feel sorry for the people that make less.
And there's this group of people, and hopefully this group of people grows, that I believe sincerely care for their neighbor. And you might find that not to be true. I'm telling you that there are people in our community, there are people, believers who love the Lord, even people who don't, that, you know what, we just care about people, and our task is, as a leader, my task is to make and hope people become more aware of the needs of people every day. We are a self-centered, selfish people. That's the human race. It started when Adam and Eve decided, oh, we can be better. We can know more. Let's go jump on that, even if it causes us to do something we're told not to do because it will bring about death. So we haven't changed. Most of us wake up, myself included, and think, what am I going to do today that helps me or helps my family or gets my needs done or makes my next vacation? But I believe also this, that inside of every human is this place that if we can nurture it and grow it, we really do desire to be helpers. Now, because we've been burned. Some of us have given $5 to the man on the corner and watched him go into the liquor store and use that for $5 when he should have been for food. We've all been there. But I can't stop helping people because I've been burned in that issue.
Okay, but one of the biggest arguments that these dirtbag knuckle dragger, protesters, Wall Street protesters, have, is that in their mind, they consider people that have money or capitalist ones that own businesses, they don't give enough back. And I think that, for most business owners, if you look at it, I mean, they give a ton to their communities and stuff like that. I think the problem isn't necessarily in that select few, that 1%. The biggest issue in terms of giving is in that 99%. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
So, I mean, regardless of whether or not you have a lot of money, it's not just about giving dollars and cents. You can give back to the community, and you got a lot of 99% of the people of the populace typically don't do that. They're always looking for somebody else to do that for them. So how do you get that message across, knowing that that's the type of mentality you deal with? These frickin' boneheads that deserve to get their heads cut off. How do you get that mentality? How do you change that mentality in your church?
I think first of all you live it. I hope Again, if you followed me around, I hope that if you followed my kids around or my family, you would see people who not because I'm so good at it.
Ken Brand can't do it all.
But you asked me how to get it done. My thing is, somebody's got to be an example. There's lots of people, lots of men, lots of pastors, lots of women, lots of people in this community who are good examples that I look to and say, man, they give their time, they give their resources. But we think in terms of money too often, and sometimes it's a simple thing like raking the leaves of the guy next door because he's in a wheelchair. Knowing that the across the street
Laugh at people in
son
wheelchairs,
was
is
in
that
a car accident, so I'm going to take him a meal because they don't have time to cook it because they've been spending time at the hospital. There's just a lifestyle that I think promotes, you know what? I don't have to do. I just have to open my eyes, and there it is in front of me.
Why aren't other churches preaching this?
I think a lot of churches do. First of all, I'd be careful not to say that no other churches do it. I think a lot do. Again, I belong to a group of churches who reach out a lot, and there's a big outreach that happens in our community based on churches. I think what happens is both because of media things and by the way, we've been really good and lucky to have the media promote some of the big things that we do. But I think churches aren't very good. I don't think there's a problem with social, and I like to do it, and I like to be a part of it, and I think more churches need to say, man, this is what we're doing, and get the word out there. Besides the fact that they could help more people if they did, but we're really not in it for, well, if I do this, here comes the news guys with their cameras. We do it because that's what we're called to do.
Okay, but people on an individual basis. I think that going to church. That's why people go to church. That you go to church to learn how to do things or what you should be doing. But this concept seems so basic, so simple, so obvious. Why is it such a difficult thing for people to understand and grasp? When January rolls around, they do nothing. They sit on their thumbs, man. I don't understand.
Opportunity, finances. I think we have this mentality. We got to cut back because we spent a lot at Christmas. And so we went in. I think if the mentality all through the year, maybe we would do things differently at Christmas. Maybe we would budget different at Christmas. Maybe our outlay for money would go in different directions.
Don't you think that people think, the attitude is the government is going to do those things and take care of it, and we don't have to do that anymore? It doesn't. It's no different than, like you said, you're going to tithe, you cut the check, you hand it to the church, you walk away, you feel good. If somebody goes to a voting booth and they vote, one way, well, then they know, well, people are going to get the government things that they need, and that's that.
No doubt, I think there's that mentality. I'm telling you, my thoughts are that there's no way, even or especially, let's say, the government can meet the needs of what's out there. I don't think it's rocket science. I don't care who was elected this last time to know that whoever steps in there, all of a sudden, boom, we're going to take care of the homeless. It's done. We're going to meet needs of those people who have been in a tragic accident with Hurricane Sandy or whatever, done. FEMA and welfare and all those programs, they're provided for us, whether you agree or not. My issue is, I don't care how more programs you start. There's going to be needs out there that need to be met. The church's job, I believe, the church, not just Hope Chapel, the church is to say, first of all, me personally, Lord, what are you asking me to do?
But see how I get in
I like that.
Okay, but the bottom line is you've got all these different organizations that are doing different things, and some of them are scams, man. Some of them, the money doesn't go where it's supposed to go. Some of them, it doesn't do what it's supposed to do.
And here's my
how many times you see these commercials of people wanting, send us $1, we'll feed you 30 days. Some of that stuff is crap. It doesn't actually go there. And then the other part of the equation is, okay, so some of these organizations, these programs are set up, but it goes to these governments in these different countries that are crooked and shaded, and they steal the donations, and it goes to the governments.
I'm not going to disagree with any of that.
So why would anybody do that?
Two things. You, Jacob Larson, have a responsibility before you give a dime to do a little background work. Don't get sucked into, hey, we are the world. Get your credit card out or send a text and send $10. That's your responsibility. Second of all, I just came in the summer from Haiti, a country where that happens a lot. We sent a lot of money.
The government takes it.
And different issues. The people who really needed it never saw a dime. So I'm well aware of that. here's the deal. Does that mean, okay, then I just get bitter and stop giving, or I stop trying to make a difference?
I don't know if I mean, me personally, I don't know if I'd give to something like that. I think I'd probably just look around in my local community and give it to people there.
Then do it. That's all I'm saying.
And you're not opposed to that?
No.
Okay, but wait a minute here. I mean, it says in the Bible you're supposed to tithe. Ruth chapter verse 12:6, number 34. It says, don't laugh at me. That's in there. It says that you're supposed to give money to the church.
Correct.
That's like to the building. It says that.
I don't think it ever says to the building. If you
It says
do,
to the box.
I got a different Bible.
It's
maybe
a
than that,
new
but-
version,
Oh,
chapter James
Okay, great.
Testament.
First of all, you need to. My definition of the church is not this place where we come. My definition of the church is this group of people that God has raised up to do a certain purpose in that area of work. Being Hope Chapel is a small part of the church as a whole, all around the world. There's the church. Hang on, because I can tell you that's not going over good with you, but I don't really care. So my task is to be a biblical church, which is people come and respond financially to us as a church. We do have leadership that are responsible for being good stewards of that, and we know that part of that is, you bet there's building expenses. You bet there's expenses of staff that we have. But there's also a large part of that is a biblical mandate, which is feed the hungry, help the homeless, take care of widows and orphans.
And you do that
meet the
all
needs.
year round.
We try. We think that's our job to do.
All year round.
As best we can.
Okay, so why is it that you don't, I mean, I don't see other churches doing that. I don't see other churches with that thought process mentality, with that attitude when it comes to their congregation. I just don't see it. Maybe I'm blind. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong. But from what I see on the outside perspective, I see a lot of churches that are out there in for themselves, and they're looking for create bigger, to create more, to do this and that. And sure, they do their donations, but I mean literally, as easy as it is for an individual to write a check of tithe or donation and hand it to a church, churches are just as easy and just as quick to write that check and hand it to some missionary, in another country and just be done with it. They don't want the work involved with looking at an individual and one-on-one in certain circumstances and situations. I mean, look at this community. I mean, the economy sucks right now. People are struggling for jobs. We got a new president that frankly doesn't give a damn. I can say that. But the bottom line is, I mean, you just don't see that type of direct involvement going on in the local community with some of the local churches. You just don't see it.
And I probably see it more because I'm involved with those local churches, and I think there's a lot more going on. Again, it may not make the front page of the paper, but every day I believe I can tell you about a book full of stories of clothes closets and places that people that go out and churches that go out of their way and people that have been blessed, and stories of help that happens, of bills being paid by people, of needs being met, of lawns being mowed. I mean, from
in
the
the
smallest
congregation,
in
the congregation,
in the local church in Eugene, Springfield area, all the time, every day.
For real.
For real.
Okay, well, I don't even know what to say about that.
Well, I'm just telling you it's true, and you
I
can say what you want, but that it's happening. And I think now, let me be really careful. Do we need to get better, and should we be doing more? Yes. My answer will always be yes.
I think that, for the most part, you have different churches that are somewhat regiment in how they go about doing things, and it's got to be done a certain way. And if it's not done that way, then yeah, I think people are kicked to the curb.
And I can't. I mean, I'm not here to speak for other churches. I'm here to.
Well,
speak
I don't want to
for
name
the church as a whole,
churches.
and I'm saying
I've got them in the back of my head.
Okay, and their process of doing things, and the politics or policies of how they get things done. I'm not here to debate that, good or bad. I'm here to say there's a lot happening locally with churches. We don't see it. Maybe you don't hear about it a lot. It's not going to make the papers, but there's a lot going on. I could tell you of 700 plus meals that were served the day before Thanksgiving. And I know this goes back to the whole holiday thing. I could take you to
I did 11,000
event after event,
shoebox things to
exactly
toy thing.
So you're not going to see it. It's going on. We are trying. We are doing a job. Is it a great job? We're doing a good job of helping to meet the needs locally.
Where are the people, the church people that go to the church? What are they doing? Where are these people? They sit in the pew. They sit in the chair. They listen to the message. They give their little donation. They walk away. Where are these people, Ken? I mean, I just don't. I mean, I see these very same people that'll sit there and on one hand, they'll give their donation, they'll do their tithes, and they think they did a great job earlier. That'll sit there and gossip about you and try to look out things for you. I mean, these are the same type of people that on one breath will sit there and think that I'm doing this for the church, but they don't take the actions of the church, what the church is doing, and they don't take it to heart, and they don't go home, and they don't go on the street with it, and they don't do in kind.
And here's what I'm going to tell. I'm going to go back to this, and I know I'm probably, this is like the record happening over and over. I can give you example after example after example of people doing that. And whether it's seen or not, I don't know. And most of these people would be embarrassed if I ever said what they're doing, especially if, because they don't do it for that reason. They do it for the proper reason, which is I came or I heard of a need. I believe that, in fact, some very sacrificially, they don't even have, a great meal. They're not going to have a big Christmas, but they're going to go and give a part of what they have away because they believe that that's what they're called to do.
But once again, we just voted in a new president. The attitude, mentality, the vast majority of the populace is that we get what we need from the government, and we have the vast majority of the population believing that it's not up to them to give. I mean, that's what we're seeing. That's how people voted, man. So the message, the thought process, the mentality that you have as an individual, that your church has as a group of people, it's just not spread out far enough, in my opinion, because people aren't getting it. And if what I'm saying was so off, then things wouldn't have happened the way they've happened, bro.
I
mean, you're sitting there smiling because you know what I'm saying true. Listen, if the attitude and the mentality was even remotely close, if you were being successful, see, I think you have an outdated concept, and I think that it's legit, it's sincere, but I don't think we're even remotely close to that in this country. I think we've moved so far away from that thought process and mentality that we've gone on the opposite end of the scale, and we've got people that simply aren't doing things for other people. They're not looking at what they can do, what they're capable of doing. They're simply waiting for somebody else to do it. And they're waiting for the government to do it.
There seems to be a lot of people out there doing that, correct. Here's what I can tell you, since you invited me on and I'm talking about me.
Well, I don't mean to beat you up. I'm not beating you up, okay?
And I'm not taking it.
I'm just saying.
Here's the deal that's going to take place. I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing. I'm not going to stop encouraging people to do what I'm doing. I'm not going to stop to tell people, not because Ken Brown said it, because I believe that you can take a book, a really great book, which is called the Bible, which you quoted from a while ago. No idea if you quoted it right, but you quoted
Ruth chapter 6, 12, 34,
exactly.
62.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's true.
And I believe this. There's a much higher calling, and that being a creator, a God who loves each one of us, that has asked me, that has asked you to help our fellow man.
Christianity is on the decline. Atheism is on the rise. There are less people that are being taught and trained to give and to be caring than before.
So I should stop? Is that what you're telling me? Because I'm not going to do it.
No, what I'm telling you is that things are going to change dramatically in the years to come. Things are going to be entirely different.
I have no doubt. I think you can read the end of the book again, this Bible, and find out that you're spot on. It's not going to get better before things get a little bit rockier. Correct.
So great, man. So we just continue to do the same thing over and over again, and just watch the thing burn. How do you get this message across? How do you see? Personally, I don't think this is my thing, Ken. Okay, this is my thing. People can listen to a show like this. And they can go, wow, that's great. And then 5 minutes from now, 10 minutes from now, it's all going to go away. I think these people should simply have their heads cut off. Do you understand? I think there's a level of mentality that's across the states. You know what? I'm not going to do the Tarbosh segment today, all right? We're skipping all that. Sorry, I got 5 minutes left of the show. I just want to get this out there. I think these people, the mentality of these people, seriously, I think they deserve to have their heads cut off. I think they need to be hit as hard as they can right in the head. And you're a pastor, and I know you can't say that. And you can't look somebody in the eye and say, hey, you're a dirtbag. But I'm not, and I can. And I think that how they treat you and how they treat church and how they sit in their pews, I think it's crap. And I think they deserve to have their face busted over it.
Okay. And let me just say this. I think I might be the most blessed man in the world. And I
because you know me.
Well, probably. But I got, while that takes place, don't get me wrong, and people do that, I like to look at the other side, which is, man, good things are really taking place because of things that we, the church, have in place, that people are being touched. I've seen just recently, again, go into a house that they're not going to have any food on the table, and there comes a box of food. I've seen lots of great things take place that I believe God has called each one of us to do to help each other out. I think personally myself, I'm just very, very blessed. I don't have every great thing in the world. I don't live in a giant house, but hang on. But I'll tell you what, I can put my head down at night and go, I get to serve with some of the greatest people in the world, and whether we all agree together or not, you know what?
That's not seen. That's not shown. What's seen and shown is people from the West Baptist Church holding up signs saying gays are evil.
Westboro.
Whatever. Okay, these West people, they're holding up signs saying, homosexuality, God hates homosexual stuff. That's what's being shown. That's what's being seen across the globe.
Sure.
Stuff like that.
Sure.
Not the stuff you're talking about.
And I'm
3 minutes left of the show.
Okay.
We need to talk more about this. No, we're not finished. But I mean, the bottom line is, okay, so listen, I can appreciate what you're saying. I think it's great. Okay, but number one,
here's the deal. It's not great because it's great. It's great because it's truth.
Okay.
And whether you even agree with me, and we're good friends, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because I believe it's the right thing, and not because someone said, Ken, you should be nice to people. Because I'm me, I'd like to not be nice to some
I think
people.
the ones that get it, and do it, I think are great. And I think they should continue to do that. I think the ones that can sit through an hour-long meeting like this and not look at their life, not look in the mirror and go, gee, am I actually doing what this – I go to this guy's church. Am I actually doing what he's saying? I think those people that aren't – I think they should deserve to have their heads cut off. And I know you can't say that. But I'm telling you right now, I think they're dirt bags and that we should send them back to God.
And my only point is this. I want to give them every chance they can. So if they make a mistake and they come back the next week and we get another shot to hopefully through the ability to speak the truth to them, what God I believe has given us to say, I want to give them every shot. You can cut their heads off. I'm going to keep giving them a shot after shot after shot.
See, you clearly have the pastor's heart. You clearly have a pastor's heart.
You might. You just are mad right now. And so
I don't.
Okay.
No, I just don't. I
Okay.
flat out don't. I
All
want to
right.
help people to a certain extent. So, I mean, the bottom line is we have about a minute and a half left of the show, folks. I hope you enjoyed yourself as much as I enjoyed talking with Ken. I know the show was a little bit different. Once again, quick info. Salvation Army needs volunteers to help assemble food boxes. We're just talking about this. We're just talking about this. They need help to assemble Christmas food boxes Wednesday and Thursday, the 12th, December 12th and 13th. They'll also need help with distribution on Wednesday and Thursday, December 19th and 20th, when the families come to pick them up. For more information or to volunteer, contact Olive and George Wild at 541-937-2644. If you like the show today, please do your best to sponsor us. That would be great. Go to the website, www.buycommonsense.com. Click on the link to the show to sponsor. Thanks again, folks. See you next week.
AM 1320 AM KSCR, Eugene Springfield. Info Radio. News, information, and entertainment. 1320 Info Radio.